be looking up, I need to get a map of the district so we can show you guys where we're talking about. We just have a couple minutes left to go, so we're gonna like kill time a little bit. We have how many? We have 3 people. Hello.
Hello, 3 people.
Hang on, I'm looking for maps. NC 07 Congressional District. And I have to get it into my phone so that I can show it to you guys. Here we go. Kim, you're just telling me about a thing. Was it Navasa was the other night?
Navasa.
Like 2 nights ago?
It was last night. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're gonna jump in real informally, you guys. So last night I was in Brunswick County in a town called Navasa because the EPA was there and they were doing a presentation on cleanup because the Navasa area is a Superfund site, which basically means that there was so much like waste and toxicity there from a chemical plant that was there before that they ended up it got really bad. And so the EPA is in now to clean up, and they've been starting work in various parts of the area. And so yesterday they were looking at OU4 North, or Operable Unit 4 North. And so I learned all about creosote and dioxins and all this toxic stuff that's in the water and the ground, and how the EPA is going to go about trying to clean all of that up. So it was a really, really good conversation.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad the EPA still comes out here.
Yes, and they come out a lot. Like this is one of many, like the public comment period is open right now for OU4 North to decide if it's going to be residential or non-residential, because that determines the type of cleanup, the extent of the cleanup and things like that, based on what they want to put it on there. And so they want the folks who live there to be able to weigh in. And so they did their presentation. And so it's excellent. But they come down all the time because they're doing the area in chunks, basically. It's a scientific term, chunks.
Chunk it up. You got
They're
it.
doing it in chunks. And so I wanted to come hear what they were planning to do. So
amazing. Perfect. Yeah. I gotta get
the map. Hold on. Wait a second. Hey, everybody, put in where you're watching from. I think that would be really neat to see where folks are in the world. So if you wouldn't mind, put that in the chat while Sarah is pulling up you guys's map. Virginia, hey, I'm originally from Maryland. And so I would love to know what part of Virginia. Rutland, Vermont. I lived in Connecticut, and I almost made it to Vermont. I spent a lot of time in New England, Grand Rapids. Love Grand Rapids, Minnesota, the Triangle, Apex, Florida. Oh, look at this. Arizona, Texas, Western New York, Tempe. I love this. Yeah, everybody keep putting that all in there as you come in the room. Did you get your map up?
Yeah, we got the links out to everybody. So let me try and get. I am not confident this thing is.
I lived in Chicago for 6 very cold years. Wisconsin, DC metro region. Yes, my family still lives in Maryland right now. Let's see, and Northern Virginia. I love this. Western Washington, Greater Seattle, Southern California. That's awesome. The Great Pacific Northwest. I love it. I love it.
Here we go. Okay. I've got like another screen I can like check comments on. Okay, we're set. We're good to go, guys.
Okay. Franklin County.
Can I send photos from in here from my personal? That would be amazing. Here we go. You cannot send photos in chat. That's probably for the best.
All things considered, that's fine. We'll link to it on the website or something.
Yeah, here, I'll send you the Wikipedia article, you guys. This is the North Carolina 7th Congressional District.
SoCal. Oh, another SoCal person.
There we go. So that's the little map, and that's the district we're looking at.
Jennifer loves screw it. That's hilarious. I love
that. So yeah, all right, we're just gonna get started now. Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Tabor. I am meeting here with Dr. Kimberly Hardy. She is running for Congress in my district. I'm really pumped. Kim and I actually go way back. We met while we were both canvassing and volunteering in campaigns here in North Carolina. We had a lot of districts that were actually like very close to 50-50, and so there was really a point to getting involved. A lot of people really rolled out for that, and it was a very cool time. And then they gerrymandered everything back to where we can't do too much. But the cool thing about gerrymandering is those maps kind of decay eventually. We've had a lot of new people move into this district, and we've had a lot more engagement and interest from people in the district. So it was a really important time to have someone running for this seat. And, Kim kind of looked around and said, someone has to do this.
Someone, right.
It's, you get that moment where you're like, oh no, it's time. So a little bit of introduction to Dr. Hardy. Kimberly Hardy is a social worker and teaches at a local university, Fayetteville State. So as a social worker, she knows how to talk to like all the people. It's amazing. She's really good in a room, and it's been a wonderful thing to because sometimes people run for office and they're still learning how to talk to people. It's me. I work with plants. It was a learning process the whole time. Kim is good with people and like good at understanding what's going on with people, but also understanding the larger and wider scale issues that everybody's dealing with. So we really need somebody who can connect the everyday issues that people are dealing with to what is going on in the broader world. And so it's just great to watch her connect with people and talk to them. And you've had some times when people are like, I can't get my insulin. You're able to connect them with the resources they needed to get that done. So it's just great to watch her work. That's been really fun. As someone who is also just involved in trying to get democracy to work better out here. It's been great to watch her work and just see what she's been able to do and connect with people. So I will talk less now, and we'll say, Dr. Hardy, introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself.
Well, hello, everyone. Hi, Sarah. I'm so excited that I get to do this with you. This is so much fun. The last time we got to do something akin to this was when you were running for ag commissioner and we were talking to your counterpart in Florida, where I learned so much, so much. I love this question. As a native extrovert or a charismatic introvert? I am absolutely an introvert. If you follow Myers-Briggs, I am an INFJ to my core. So I am a social worker and a social work professor now. But when I was in practice, I was a school social worker and noticed that I've been working with clients and their faces keep changing, but the problems never do, which tells you that it is a systemic issue. And so I was like, I need to go do something that's going to make this better, because otherwise I'm just helping people navigate broken and failed systems as opposed to just fixing the system that is working to work against these people's lives. So I went and got the PhD because I thought that policy experts and academics who are experts in all the data, they work together to make policy, and that was adorable and not at all true. And so then I just decided that I can do both. And so I am currently serving in my second 2-year term as second vice chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party. And in that role, I have been able to do some really, really great work. Fellow INFJ, I'm seeing all of them. I'm sorry, I'm so distracted by all my INFJ folks in the chat. Keep throwing stuff in there. But I in that role, I did a thing a few years ago in like the 23-24 time period where I went around to 30 different counties down east, and we were specifically looking for, I wanted to talk to African-American voters in counties where we had seen a decline in their voter participation and wanted to know why. And so I would spend all day and all into the evening. I would talk to people, go all the different places. And in each of the counties, if there was a homeless shelter or a food pantry, I absolutely wanted to go there too, because I find those places to be the great equalizer. They really give you a sense of just how dire situations have become when usage rates start to go up. And so there were a bunch of different reasons why folks weren't voting. And it was everything from they're going to pick whoever they want anyway. Raise your hand if you've heard that before. It is not true. They are going to pick whoever they want anyway. I used to vote and it didn't make a difference. which is fair. And then because some of these counties are really far out east, they would say, well, statewide candidates never come here because they don't feel like they have to earn our vote. And that was fair. And so I started bringing statewide candidates out there, and Sarah was one of them, and bringing you around. And then it was neat because what Sarah, you guys, she's not going to say this, so I'm going to say this. So she did the tour with me a few times, and then was like, I see what we're doing here. And then she started this other thing called the Chore Tour, which I thought was the neatest thing ever, because she would go out to agricultural spaces and help farmers with their farm chores by day, and then do like town halls with them in the evening. And that was awesome. And I was so excited that, well, even though she wasn't really joining me on the trail as often anymore, it was because she was trailblazing her own thing, which I thought was amazing. So yeah, that was what I started doing. And once November 24 hit, like a ton of bricks, it became clear that we were going to have to do something. And so I, at first, was like, okay, we got to find a really strong person, because this is a flippable seat. We got to get somebody to do it. And I just started thinking that I think that's me. I know this district. I know the people of this district. I've been to every one of these counties multiple times. Like, it makes sense for me to try and do this. And so and I wondered if I would have a primary, and I do not, which is a blessing, because now we don't have to have
Oh, we lost her. She'll be back.
Sorry.
Oh,
yeah, there I am. Sorry, a call came in. I apologize. This is going to probably happen like 4 more times. So yeah, so I just decided, like, this is winnable and flippable, and I know what these folks are talking about, what they need, because I live and work and play around them every day. And so I decided I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. Like I said, we don't have a primary, which is wonderful. And so now we can just go right at my opponent directly for the next 13 months.
Yeah, there's a fun thing that happens in the political landscape where you have, some seats are considered a safe blue seat, and you'll get just 30 people in the primaries, it feels like sometimes. Like, everybody comes out and says, I want to run for this seat. When it's a really competitive election, you have fewer people who are into that kind of thing. And because it's primaries can get rough, but a general is a whole different thing. And there's not as many people willing to sign up for that. So it's going to be, this is the thing, like, it's a winnable race, but it is going to be difficult, and not everyone has the appetite for that. So again, I'm just like, really, I just ran a very tough race, and I need some breathing time. So it was really nice to have.
Yeah, you ran across 100 counties. I only have 8. So like that you did an amazing job, and I still am never gonna forgive us for not getting you over that line. But hopefully, 4 more years, you'll come back and do it again.
Oh, I'm done running for now, Kim. You don't have to butter my biscuits, but but yeah, it's going to be a tough one. So, like, do we, I want to know what the folks in the chat want to hear about. We can talk about, like, what has happened in this district that makes this race winnable when it wasn't before. We can talk about just what's going on in this area. We can talk more about like the kinds of changes we want to see, and like why Kim decided to run. Oh yeah, we flipped one in Arizona yesterday. That was
I'm
nice.
seeing a lot of stuff about food banks and food bank cutting, food resources federally getting those funds getting cut. And that is true. And it is absolutely deplorable to me. These are lifelines for people. It's so interesting to me how everyone's like, oh, go to the churches and go to community groups and everything. And then federal funding to these organizations like food banks get cut. And I'm like, what exactly is it that you all are expecting to happen when you do these things? You're going to cut Medicaid, you're going to cut Medicare, you're going to cut SNAP benefits, like, what exactly is it that's the end game here? Because this whole notion of people pulling themselves up by their bootstraps is folly. That is not real. The very people saying that themselves very often no pulling up of said bootstraps, inherited wealth, or just more opportunities to acquire it. And so, but I just think, like, if we can't take care of people who are struggling the most, more often than not through no fault of their own, and I don't even care if it is through some fault of their own, like, I don't know what we're saying, who we say we are as a society. So yeah, I think she said, I wish we all had had open ranked choice primaries like NYC. I'm just glad I'm not in a primary at all, because primaries can be really difficult for Democrats in particular, who tend to fall in love with their candidates, and they're just like, oh, this person would be so great. And so if their person loses, then they sometimes don't want to vote anymore in the general election. They don't want to participate anymore. And I'm like, no, you still you still have to show up for folks, because the good of the whole is what is at stake. And so, but it also means that we don't have to fracture the party by fighting internally with one another. We don't have to. We can raise money that we can then put toward battling the actual opponent and not an internal person. So I'm always excited when anyone decides to step up and put their name on the ballot. This is not an easy thing to do. And the bigger the race, the more you open yourself up to all manner of grossness. But it's still so worth it. And so anyone who's wanting to run for office, let me please encourage you to seek out trainings that will help you with that, so that you can become part of the policy solution. So,
Yeah, for
but there's
sure.
a whole bunch of stuff in there. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was raised in a very conservative, white folks church. And one of the most interesting things that would happen was everybody in the church would say, hey, we need to quit it with this welfare stuff because it's making people lazy. And we're a church and we take care of our own. And so, like, what do you even need the government for? Well, once you started working like in church leadership, because it was all volunteer run church, once you started doing like working with people who needed food and other resources, you know what we did? We got them to the the social services. That's what we did. That's what the church did, was patch people in with social services. There was some volunteering, there was some money, there was some support, but everybody who actually worked with that in the church was like, yeah, there's no way we can do all that. It takes federal funding and support. So it was wild because you had a rank and file, very conservative church. But as soon as you actually started doing the work that people talked about how we do as a church, once people started doing that, they realized, we we need this stuff
Yeah.
to. And somehow that information never made it into being spoken to the pews.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
very much so. Blue Blue Papillon says that we are missing the bigger picture, and I would love for that to get in there a little bit more, with a little bit more specificity. Like, what exactly is it that you are seeing as the bigger picture that you want us to talk about? Because we have time. This is why we're here. So please do feel free to add more to that, so we can know how to attend to it before we wrap up here. Um,
Yeah.
so,
Somebody
but
asked, will the live stream be saved? Yeah, we're going to post it afterwards.
mhm. But you guys are in here now. I have started with the food. Okay, that is good. Are you for Medicaid, Medicare for all? Yes. So here's the thing. I want everyone to have access to quality and affordable healthcare. Um, if healthcare is really about caring for people's health, then what that means is, which it doesn't feel like it is right now, um, then we do better as a society. Right now, I feel like we are struggling unnecessarily to take care of the people most in need, and it's about to get so much worse. I was actually on a Zoom the other day with North Carolina's deputy director of DHHS, talking about the Medicaid cuts that are going to happen here in the state. Unfortunately, in the next couple of days, because it's going to start with October 1, because it's the federal budget cycle. And it's going to be really serious. And she was quite stark when she said it is going to cost people their lives. And if nothing else, it's just going to make it much more difficult for folks to access healthcare services now. And that's everything from seniors to children. Um, folks who need an emergency. The hospitals are going to close. Hospitals are already closing. Like, it's really, really unnecessary. This doesn't have to happen. We don't lack the resources to give the care that people need. It's a lack of will. And so we need people in Congress, in particular, who are going to go up there and write legislation that's going to be beneficial for folks. So, do I want everyone to have healthcare? Yes, and whatever we want to call it, let's call it whatever. But I want it I want it done. It is possible, but this is strictly an issue of a lack of will and a lack of care for people who are in harm's way. So.
Mhm. Yeah. See, and I think in our congressional district, was it 78,000 people are either losing their health coverage or getting their premiums hiked way up? 78,000 people. And I think that's one of the districts with the higher numbers of people affected in that way. So that's,
Right. So NCO 7, Congressional District 7, has the second highest number of people who are using Medicare, Medicaid, and SNAP benefits. So while the rest of the state, is definitely going to feel the impact, District 7 is going to feel it particularly hard. It is going to hurt us really, really, really badly. So I think we might be third highest for Medicaid, but nevertheless, we are one of the highest users in the district. And so at the end of the day, the issue is going to be bad no matter what. And so, and you're not, I don't think that your lack of access to care is going to feel any less terrible because the people 2 congressional districts over have it that much worse, right? I think when it's bad everywhere.
yeah. And the congressman we have right now, his position is we need to just repeal all of the ACA like entirely. So that's a big contrast there. When
Mhm.
people say like, what difference does Congress makes? This guy, like, we already took a bunch of health coverage away from people. He wants to take away the kind that people pay for. He wants to take, it's not just like federal benefits. This is a program that people pay for, and he wants to take that away.
Correct. Correct. And so, I mean, I don't need to do
Mhm.
anything else to help bring that point home. Like, that is exactly right. Meanwhile, our taxpayer dollars are funding his salary and funding his health care, which is not in jeopardy. And so, we could belabor that all day. This is the reason I'm running against him. So.
Yeah. We had a question. What would you, I guess, do you guys bleh, have we considered a slate of candidates pushing the rural/farming agenda? You're talking to them right now. Um, yeah, I ran for ag commissioner last year, specifically speaking to like rural issues. The craziest thing about that was when I was running, I had a surprising number of Trump voters say to me, like, you're talking the real stuff that nobody is talking about in either party. We have real economic problems out here because every county's owned by like 1 to 5 different families. They own everything. They do their best to keep opportunities away from people. That's why every red county is economically depressed, just about, like in rural areas. Like, they're not doing well financially. It's because of their local leadership.
Right.
That is what it
And
is. And nobody else was talking about that. And so I
mhm,
was speaking to that and getting okay, so Trump voters in rural areas, they see what the problem is. Are they, voting for the guy who's gonna fix it? No, but they see what the problem is. And when someone else speaks to those problems, they're interested in that. It was honestly, it was center left people in the cities who did not understand what I was getting at. you know,
mm,
it was so crazy because people would ask me, wow, is campaigning in rural areas, is that like hard? This is where I'm from. It's the people in the city who do not get what I'm putting down. you know,
right.
it's so wild to be asked, like, how should we campaign in rural areas? That's what I've been doing. Like it's where I'm from. So yeah, we're
It was
that's the thing
awesome
we're
to
doing.
watch you navigate that too. Like when you were talking to less rural communities, but it was important for them to understand what the challenges and opportunities were in those rural communities. I thought you did a really good job of being able to translate that for folks who were like, I don't know why I should care. I don't know what this means, And I thought you did an excellent job of of really making sure people understood, like, this is why this matters. And beyond just a no farms, no food, like a bumper sticker kind of thing, like you really made it make sense from an economic perspective and so many others. So I thought you did an amazing job with it.
Oh, thank you.
But
Yeah.
I see it says, I mean, a large group of people, probably across a couple of states. So I get the sense that this is the question about a slate of people running on rural and ag issues across the country. So we don't typically do national slates, if you will, because they're so different, and everybody's got to win their own seat and be in their own district, and there are the uniquenesses and stuff. And so I think so there's different structures to things, right? So there's the DNC, and then there are like the state Democratic, groups like the NCDP, and then there are candidates who might be Democrats but don't really have any connectedness to those other two entities, and so it makes making like a national slate of candidates difficult. But what I will say is I believe that all the candidates who are running in spaces where there is a real agricultural and there's so many the country's more agricultural than I think people realized before we started seeing what was going on with the farmers out in Midwest and stuff. But I think what you find is those folks are very they're very invested in the agricultural space that they are representing, or in the spaces where they live, even if they represent like cities, but their state has a large rural space. So pretty much all the Dems who care about people in communities care also about rural, communities and the people that live in those as well.
Yeah, and to kind of build on what Kim was speaking to there, especially like rural areas are not all the same. We are not a monolith, right? And so, I was doing that thing with Nikki Fried. So she ran for Commissioner of Agriculture in Florida and won, which is very unusual for a Democrat to do. The way you would win that race in Florida is very different from how you run it in North Carolina successfully, right? Which is very different from how you do it in Maine. So the idea that just because you're all in rural areas, you're all doing the same thing is like, no. And so you kind of like, I'm not sure that there would be a whole lot of benefit to doing that, because everybody needs to be their own person, right? We need to represent our districts. That is what you're running for. You're not running to like push a national agenda so much. You're running to do what is right for your district. And that's what your voters usually want to hear, is not like, oh, they're with the slate. What are we going to do for this place? What are we going to do for our specific concerns? That's what people want to hear about. That's what you need to be focused on. So, there's PACs and stuff that do that kind of thing and support people running for specific kinds of races. But I don't know, like, you really just have to be focused on your district, instead of like, I'm in this club. Focus on your people.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to do a thing, Kim, and then I can take a couple of questions here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you find your picture of the district that you wanted to put up?
Oh, I found a Wikipedia link, so I can. Here, I can stick that thing back in there. You're good. Because you can't put images in the chat, which is probably for the best. But I can there we go. So that's our district, and I was able to pull up some info on a couple of things. So yeah,
I will say about the district, it is super diverse in terms, like there's a lot of farmland between where I live in Cumberland County. So think Fayetteville, think Fort Bragg, right? And Wilmington, which is a beach community down on the coast. There's a lot of diversity in and around all of these different districts. And so while rural and agricultural issues are a primary concern, there's so many issues that are bespoke to these counties that one county might have that another one does not. And then there are some that have a line that runs all the way through them. Like we have a huge issue here, for example, with clean drinking water. We have these PFAS chemicals, and they're called forever chemicals, and they live in the water now because of contamination. We'll just say it that way for now. And so there's folks who are still years and years later still having to use bottled water to drink and to cook. There's, some folks who have been trying to push for the folks responsible for this to provide the cost and installation of whole home water filtration systems so that they don't have to bathe in the water that's, for chemicals and stuff. So and that's an issue that runs through so much of the whole of the district. And then there are different, specific issues that each of the different counties have. And that's one of the reasons why, again, running a national slate for so many reasons just wouldn't work per se, because even across my own 8 counties, there are a ton of differences. So I just wanted to put that out there a little bit about the makeup of our district.
Right. Yeah, we've got speaking of the PFAS thing, so we're pretty close to the epicenter of a big pollution plume here in Cumberland County, and we've got some farmers kind of in the middle of it that can't grow plants on their area because the soil's got it all in there. Because the way the pollution worked, it wound up in the smokestacks and then rained back down. So it's in everybody's soil. It's not just like in the water, it's in the soil. And so these folks can't really grow plants because then the plants are full of PFAS. And so all they can do on their property is buy grain, like buy feed and raise animals. And so that's what they're doing. They're making it work, but they bought this property and now they can't really use it because of that situation. So the pollution really kind of gets cast as like a blue issue. It's a thing that only the Dems in the cities care about. I'm like, these guys can't use their entire property in a really important way because of this. This is something that ought to count for everybody. To get at some of the questions folks were asking about food and just food and budgeting. In March, USDA cut $500 million from an emergency food assistance program that buys food from domestic producers, so farmers and food manufacturers here, and sent it to food pantries. That there's a big food bank network called Feeding America that's served like 200 food banks, over 60,000 meal programs. That program was supplying 20% of the food to that giant food bank network. So that's what's going on. It was buying from farmers as well. So that's a market that they have lost in addition to all the trade stuff going on. So there are some choices being made that don't have to be made.
Correct. Again, this is not a lack of resource. This is not this is only a lack of will. These are intentional decisions made by folks who are completely disinterested in how these things will affect folks. And I just do not understand. I don't understand. I mean, this is, to me, we're supposed to be this bright shining light on the hill, right? We're supposed to be this place that takes care of one another. That is the lore of this nation. And yet we are, again, we've already sort of talked about it, but yeah, these challenges are going to start harming people in really substantial ways that I don't know that the existing community infrastructure is really prepared to address. But we need to start thinking about how we're going to take care of folks as this continues, because it's just going to get worse until we can get some folks in to Congress, which is why I'm running, right? Because this is how you hold the executive branch in check and hold them accountable, is by changing Congress. And I want folks to go to the upcoming No Kings marches. I want folks to keep calling their legislators, showing up, all of that. Because I need them to understand that we are watching and we are furious and we are absolutely getting ready to take action when these ballots get printed. But understand that if we do not change the makeup of Congress, we cannot change what's happening in that White House. And so that's how we hold Trump accountable. And it's an unsatisfying answer to say, well, we got to wait until November of 26, but you don't have to wait. Everybody, one of the things I used to say when I was on the 30 county tour all the time is you have more power than you realize, and you have more power than you're using. And so we do need to get folks to understand that you have the ability to boycott, ask Target. You have the ability to boycott, ask Disney. You have the ability to do things that are going to make a difference. And the more that folks show up, en masse in particular, the more they get frightened. And the more they start thinking like, oh my God, maybe this is not going to be the slam dunk we think it's going to be. But this is how you change it. You change Congress, you change what happens in DC, and that's just what it is. But we have municipal elections going on right now all over the place, and so your local leadership also matters. And I would absolutely love for folks, if you have a municipal election going on where you live, please go vote for those folks. Who your mayors are and your city council persons, like all of those really matter. But then after that, let's gear up for this 2026 congressional cycle.
Yeah. Like I hear from a lot of people who feel very powerless, and it's kind of wild because like if you were powerless, they would not be trying so hard to tell you what to think. They would not be trying so hard to stop people from telling the truth on the airwaves. Okay, if what you thought didn't matter, none of that would be happening. They are telling you every single day, what you think of me is the most important thing in my life. There's a reason for that. They know that they don't have a whole lot to hang on. They know how much at risk they are. they know how much your opinion matters. They know how much they need your support to do this every day, and they need the support of all these people out there. And so when people say I feel powerless, I'm like, then why do you think why do you think they're spending all this time and money trying to like tell you what to think? That is absolutely not the case. And especially like when I talk to farmers, they'll always say like, oh, we're so powerless, like no one cares what we think. It's one of the biggest lobbies in the country. It throws a lot of money around. There's no way. So I talk to people who absolutely have a lot of political power, like objectively on paper. When you talk about money in politics, they have a huge amount of power, and they will tell you, oh, nobody cares what I think. So your perception of being powerless and the reality can be very, very, very different. Is one of the most interesting things I learned from like getting involved in the political decision-making process. Everybody thinks they have no power. Because like none of us can just like open our phone and order a policy. Like that's not how it works. And if that's what you're used to, having to go through this political process feels like you don't have power. But there's a lot of people in this country who are not happy with what's going on. And we can talk more about why the 2024 election went the way it did and why 2026 is set up to be very, very different. But one election going badly, not the way you wanted, does not mean you have no power. It is the work of a lifetime. That's why the GOP is so powerful right now, is they did the work of a lifetime for a very long time. And you don't undo that in one election. You don't undo it in like a couple of cycles. But if your opinion didn't matter, a lot of this stuff would happen. They would not be spending this much time trying to buy up news networks and tell you what to think. So
pretty much. So what would you like to touch on next?
Talk about now. Let's see. People had some questions about like what are ways that we can participate. So like, and also besides donating, I've been talking a lot about like money in the political process. People are curious about things you can do other than that. Volunteering, there's canvassing, of course, there's policy research. Like I had to have a guy, because I was running for agriculture, I had to have somebody who understood agriculture and go, hey, can you look this up in our state agriculture budget, and like see where we're sending the money, see how that's changed over time. Because I've been hearing some complaints from people who worked for the state agriculture department on my department's been cut. We can't like enforce, laws for public safety. And so I had to have somebody look up the budget and kind of trace that down because I'm busy being on the campaign trail. I'm busy talking to people. I can't like, be nerding away on the laptop all day. So I had to have somebody help me out with that. Graphic design for social media. Like you'll see all the time, like, hey, there's an event at the library on Saturday at this time. We need somebody to make the little graphic to tweet out about that. It's always useful to have people who can volunteer for that. Reaching out to friends and family and just telling like who might live in the area and telling them about that. There's the classic phone banking and text banking. There's all kinds of ways to get involved. Also donating is good. One of the funniest things, Kim and I both got involved through a lot of canvassing. And something I hear from people is like, well, canvassing is free. Oh no, it's not. I thought that when I was a volunteer. Once I became a candidate, it is not free. Because you gotta you got to print your materials, right? Like those pamphlets got to come from somewhere. You don't want to put your volunteers in knocking doors where folks are just going to scream at them, right? So you have to know what doors to send them to. That means you need software. It means you need data packages. Those things are not cheap. You need somebody who knows how to use that software and data. You need somebody who can kind of like take, here's a list of people, here's where we are today. Let's cut out enough doors that somebody can knock in an afternoon, hand them out to people. You got to have people make the clipboards, pick up the clipboards afterwards. You need snacks. Canvassing is not free. And so like, it's a great way to volunteer. But just because you have a lot of volunteers, you still need money to make all that stuff work. Which is like, yeah, it sucks. But that is like the US has always had some kind of very unfair political system. That's the current version we're stuck with right now. We have also changed our unfair political systems many, many times. And that happened because we won in the unfair one and said, we're going to make it better. So that's my brief spiel on
I can talk a bit about like how to get involved and both with and without finance and fundraising, and I'm going to go in reverse order. So Democrats have a tendency to say, we need to get money out of politics, or we need to get dirty money out of politics. We should absolutely get dirty money out of politics, but there's no such thing as we can get money out of politics, because if you need to run an ad, right, on television, those things cost money to produce, and they cost money to put up on the television over and over again, or on social media over and over again. The shiny, glossy, colorful things that we send in the mail, that you look at for 2 seconds and then they go right into your recycle bin, all of those things cost money to develop. The photography costs money. All that stuff costs money. So when people are saying, please give money to our campaigns, it is not a donation to a person. Like, I don't see any of this. This goes toward the campaign. It pays for, the staff, the interns, the materials, the ads, all of those things. Because what I want everybody to walk away from this portion of it, understanding, is that money equals messaging. The more money a campaign has, the more they can get their name and their message out there. And so, for example, I am running in 8 counties. It's not all 8 counties. Like, it's a portion of Sampson, a portion of Robeson, right? But it's 8 very big spread out counties, and everybody needs to know, like, who I am, what I'm running for, all of those things. So that, and they need to have repetition with those things, so that when it's time to go out and vote, they say, oh, wait, I've read about her, I've seen her ad or whatever. And so I want to go out there and support her. Now, here's the thing. We're going to have an adult conversation right now, right? Black women get less financial support in campaigns than any other candidate. And so, but how much money someone raises, particularly during a finance reporting period, which we're coming up on the end of now, I'll get back to that in a second, that tells people whether or not your campaign is viable. And so there are some folks who will wait until the quarterly finance report is out to see how much money you raised. And if there's not some magical number that they're looking for, they'll go, oh, well, then this race doesn't really matter. There's no sense me investing in it. And that's simply not true, especially when you consider that some folks are just not going to get that much in the beginning anyway. And so our quarterly finance report is due at the end of September. And so basically that means from July 1 to September 30th, we had to raise as much money as we possibly could. And so those reports are public. And so my opponent will see how much I've raised. Donors will see how much I've raised. The DCCC will see. Everyone will see. And for some people, if that number isn't high enough, whatever that means to them, then they won't contribute. And it'll be really, really difficult to keep things going for a while. Now, we're not going to stop. We're not going to not run this race all the way through the finish line. But it is so much easier for us to run this race when we know that we can, pay our interns, that we can get lunches for the volunteers who work at the polling location. Like, there's all sorts of things that require finance of a campaign. And so and I don't want anybody to think, well, if I can't write her a $10 million check, then I guess I can't be helpful. Because yes, you can. You can make contributions, smaller contributions over time. All candidates will tell you we love recurring contributions, because that's a pool of money that we know we can count on every month to keep the campaign going. But if you can make a contribution one time, I very much appreciate that. I am actually sitting at my desk every night writing thank you cards to people, or signing thank you letters to people who give me contributions, no matter how much that contribution is, because I very much appreciate that. In an economy like we're dealing with right now, it's not easy for people to part with funds in the hopes that I'll be able to beat this guy. But it means that much more to me. And so I make sure that everybody knows how much those contributions matter. Now, let's say you've maxed out, or you haven't. You've maxed out as much as you can. I gave her $100. Thank you for your $100. And you're like, but now I want to do something else. Like Sarah said, you can canvas. Door knocking is wonderful, but you don't always have to be the one that knocks doors. My very, very dear friend Pam is the one that drives. And so there'll be 3 people in the car. She'll drive to the neighborhood. Folks hop out, they knock on the doors, and they get back in the car. And all of those contributions are necessary too. Your time is also very valuable. And then let's see, you can, postcards. Writing postcards is a great way for people to get involved in campaigns. They go out to voters and they do things like remind them of when the election is and things like that. So, you can do a phone bank where you're calling folks, and that's super important. So there are a lot of ways, and like you said, graphic design and all of those things are really, really important. So find a candidate that you like and that you support, and reach out to their campaign. And I guarantee you, they'll find a bunch of different ways for you to. For you to contribute that, and all of them will be incredibly important.
Yeah, for sure. Um, something that keeps coming up for me when we're talking about money in politics, right? Um, is we're digging deep here. So a thing that will happen in a lot of rural areas, because I think some folks kind of get the idea that like if we just get the money out of politics, then everything will be fair. Oh, let me tell you some things. So a thing that will happen a lot, in, especially in rural areas, because there's a lot less economy. There's just fewer jobs and fewer opportunities. So again, like a lot of counties have 1 to 5 families that kind of basically own the whole thing. You might have like maybe a gravel pit or a paper mill or something, and that's the big employer. It's just a lot easier to be the one big employer in a rural area than it is in a city where there's a lot of economic activity. And so what will happen is, either the one big company or like the few big families will have their preferred candidates for every single position, from dog catcher on up to president. And they will make their preferences known, and they will expect everyone else to express the same preference, right? And if you are not into the guy that they're into, you don't get jobs. Your family doesn't get jobs. You might have a hard time finding a new place to rent because a lot of folks in rural areas are renters, and you might have a hard time finding a new place to rent when you have to move next time. That is a really serious form of political pressure that is huge in rural areas. I think urban voters don't know that's a thing. It is huge, and you never have to spend a dime. So when people say like, if we just get the money out of politics, then everything will be fair. Oh no. There's powerful people are always going to have a preference for people who support powerful, wealthy people. They are always going to find ways to push that. No matter what the laws are, no matter what the political and economic situation is, they will always find a way to make it so everyone has to say what they want to hear. And, once everybody has to say we prefer these candidates, then that's just kind of who everybody winds up voting for. Because only a crazy person, would vote for the other guys, right? That's something you hear a lot. Like, why do Democrats have this toxic brand? That is a huge part of it. Working in agriculture, that was a huge factor in people's ability to get promotions. People's ability to get a lot of agriculture is very gig based, and being a stand up guy who supports the right thing and is a team player and knows where society needs to be headed is a huge part of just your basic ability to have a job and a career. That is huge, like politically supporting the right people. And that helps explain why when you look at a map of the United States, a lot of the rural areas, not all, we're going to talk about that in a second. A lot of the rural areas are deep red. That is why. That's the dynamic of them. And so the idea that power in politics and undue influence is all about advertising and money. Sometimes you need a lot of advertising money to break through the stuff that a lot of people need. And again, this is one of those things when people say like, is campaigning in rural areas hard? Like, yeah, but not because it's hard to talk to people. It's hard because telling urban folks this is what we need to do is very difficult. Like, here's the setup, here's what's going on. Because it's a thing where there's a lot of undue political influence, but everyone is so determined to think of rural areas as this like old timey and pure place where the bad corrupt city things don't happen. That's what's hard. That's what's hard. And so this idea, like, you could get rid of money in politics and that would still be happening. So that's I don't know, that's just something that's on. And that's going to be the case in a lot of the district that Kim is running in. That's a lot of the counties here. And breaking through that is not easy. You have to get out in front of people. You have to get, yourself personally, which means you need a lot of gas, and you need like someone to like often drive, because you got to be like answering emails and calling people. You should not be doing that while driving. It means you need places to stay overnight. It means you need repairs on your car. Like, I don't know if this happened to you, Kim. Like, I feel like Anderson needed to repair her car. I need to repair my car. My campaign manager's car got totaled on like the last day of the election, out and about. He's I knew what insurance was like. It puts I put 25,000 miles on my vehicles. I put serious, like, at that point, that's a lot of value gone, right? So even like the free community, like grassroots stuff is free. Like just going places is like a lot of effort. And it takes an investment. And that's what it takes to break that stranglehold that a lot of conservative and reactionary politics have, on rural areas like the district that Kim is.
Mhm.
So that's a yeah, that's a whole, I don't know. That's just like a thing that's on my mind for some reason.
I'm glad we gave you an opportunity to get that off of your mind. So yeah, I mean, again, there's a lot of differences to the various counties in this district, and so yes, those are very real rural concerns. But there's also like the city of Wilmington just now, their city council uh, has been trying to address the issue of homelessness, this increase in the number of folks who are going unsheltered. And so they found a very humane way to attend to that issue, which I can appreciate. Homelessness is actually one of the primary issue that got me into social work in the first place and continues to be a huge issue for me. And so, yeah, we like again. There's urban issues, there are rural issues. At the end of the day, there are people issues, and we deserve to have somebody in leadership who actually cares about the people and the things that they're dealing with. And so, if it means trying to get rural folks to understand major urban issues and vice versa, then that's just the work of whoever is going to be in leadership, and that's not something that the incumbent actually does not. That's not something that he does well at all. He doesn't show up. In fact, the last time he did a constituent facing event was 8 years ago, when he said, and I quote, "I will be accessible and I will do a town hall every year." He hasn't done one since. We launched this campaign in all 8 counties in 8 consecutive days, and we did it at the same time that he was home on break from Congress. So he could have done the same thing and chose not to. And so, if you're not going to show up for people, then we're going to tell them that, and we're going to be the opposite of that, and we're going to show up for them so that they recognize that it is, because it's possible. It's possible to be present for people when you care about people. And I think at the core of it, it might sound Pollyanna-ish to some folks, like, oh, she talks about us caring about people. But that's exactly what the issue is right now, right? When you make these arcane changes to women's reproductive care, then you just don't care about people. When you're cutting programs that are going to keep seniors and children and just lower income working class folks away from healthcare, you don't care about people. And we can just go down and down and down. When you dress up ICE agents like ninjas to just go grab people off of the street, like, you, even if they're US citizens, and you don't even bother to stop and ask, like, you don't care about people. And when people are like, oh, well, that doesn't matter for me, I'm not a Latina. Yo hablo español, no soy Latina, soy morena, pero yo hablo español. And so I'm like, if I'm out speaking to somebody in the community and they're going, oh, get her, and they throw me in the back of a paddy wagon, like, and take me into nowhere, what does that mean? And so none of us are free unless all of us are free. And so at the end of the day, there are, like, we can disaggregate all of the various issues that are affecting people and understanding, like, where all of that historically comes from. But at the core of it all is the need to make a change. And so, this district has the opportunity now, for the first time in 10 years. This guy's been in office for 10 years, and he has done absolutely nothing to be of any benefit to the overwhelming majority of the folks. She said, "My name is Pollyanna." Yay, Pollyanna! And I didn't mean to you say your name in a negative way. I was just using it in that, like, oh, rose-colored glasses. And I don't know what's wrong with that. I prefer blue lenses myself, but I don't know what's wrong with us saying, man, we need to just start caring about people. And I was telling someone earlier today, don't just start caring about people when you're the people that need care, right? Like, it's important that we show up for folks all the time. It's important that, I mean, you've got the NSA literally putting butcher block paper over pictures of people who have made amazing contributions because they are either people of color or women. Like that's madness to me. And you've got the U.S. Park Service, a federal government agency that has a page on there about the Underground Railroad. You got rid of Harriet Tubman. Like, what are you doing? And so, like this, there's a point at which like this district is flippable because the partisan lean before we started this was only an R5, which is totally doable. And that was before Doge laid off thousands and thousands of federal workers. Some of my friends are included on that list. It was before tariffs took away people's Christmas gifts last year and will take them away this year. It was before the lie that somehow he was going to do anything to prices in the grocery store except make them go up and bring people's wealth and income down. So it's that much more flippable now because people are hurting so much more than they ever thought that they would. And I am not one of those people who says like, oh, they effed around and now they're finding out. Like, I get that that is people's natural reaction to say like, oh, well, have the day you voted for. We tried to tell. I get that. But here's the thing. It is okay for people to have believed in their candidate the same way I believed in mine. And for them to realize now that their candidate lied to them for his own edification is a hard thing to admit. I think we need to be a soft landing place for people to come over here so we can say, good, now that you see that you're no different to them than the rest of us, let's all go fight together. Because, Sarah and I, we talk about farmers. I see stuff on TV and I'm like, Sarah, what's going on with these farmers? And so she helps level set these things for me. And, like out in Arkansas, out in Nebraska, why does no one care? But at the end of the day, and I'm with you, Hattie Langford. I hope they admit it. And sometimes they do. And when they are willing to admit it, let's have a conversation. Otherwise, one of my favorite quotes in the world is, let us not become like those we despise. Let us be a space that brings people into this fold so they can understand that before November, a lot of these farmers weren't dealing with all of this. And now here we are again. And the last time you dealt with this, when Trump was president last time. And it's like, there's got to be a point at which you start to recognize that your family should matter first and foremost to you. And your community should matter first and foremost, not some ideologue who's using culture war nonsense to divide us on issues that don't matter. None of the issues that we have talked about are partisan. They have just been weaponized in partisan ways. And so hungry is hungry is hungry. The gas prices, the food prices, they're all going up and there's no pump at the gas station for those of you who voted blue versus red. Like, it's not. And so when we start to see ourselves as connected to one another as a community nationally, then we can make the kinds of changes we need to make to put people in office who will fix it. And I know it's an unsatisfying answer to say we just got to stay in the fight until October or November of next year, but that's what it is, because we have to change who's sitting at the seat of power in Congress so that because I've decided I'm going to win this race already, so that we can go up there and make the types of changes that are going to help people. And that's what it is. And so I saw the Violet Revolution said appeal to the women because ultimately we have the power to change things. We do, and so do men. I mean, if we look at those numbers from November, like, we are not getting ready to go down that whole road again. I am a proud member of the 92%, but we do need more people who voted on the right or who voted down the middle because they took a principled stance on a candidate that was never going to have an opportunity to win. Like, we need them to come over here too. We need folks that don't traditionally vote in midterm elections because they don't know how important those seats are. We need them to also show up. We need folks who are like one issue voters to recognize that your issue at this point, I'm not even kidding, is your freedom. And it's the freedom disaggregated 1,000 different ways. And so we have to be very high-minded about this thing right now. We can't just say, I only care about that issue. You don't get to just care about that issue anymore because it's all coming at us every single day. But we can change it. And they know that. That's why they cheat. That's why Texas, right? With their, we deserve 5 more seats in what are you saying to yourself right now? And then they go and make that happen. That is madness. And so we have to take the seats that we can get access to. This is one of those. And if we get the power in both houses of Congress, then we really do stand a chance to fix this until we can get him out in 2028. So sorry, that's just something that's
Exactly.
on my mind right now.
Good, yeah. And to your point about, like we need to be a soft landing place, better late than never. Seriously. Y'all know me, I will be very blunt about what is going on in the agricultural community and like very, very blunt. I'll just lay out here's what's happening. Here is, the decisions our administration is making. Here's what it's doing to people. And that's something that a lot of folks, it's very easy to go like, yeah, yeah, about. I'm like, nope, just here's what's happening. You deserve somebody who's going to say that to your face, right? This is not out of a spirit of like, hey, it's a spirit of like, no party is really taking head on what's going on in agriculture. The GOP is just all in on this guy. And, there's not a lot of Dems who understand what's going on with agricultural economics. This isn't even a party thing. We need somebody who can name what is going on. And it's wild if you work in agriculture, like it looks deep red on a map, but the number of people I've had, we sneak out for like a quick dinner, like after a farm gig, and they're like, you know what, like looking around here, they notice the 1 to 5 families owns the whole county, right? And they say, we need estate taxes back. The amount of people who see what's going on in rural areas because they live and work there and they're not happy about it would probably surprise you. And they don't necessarily feel like anyone gets what they're going through, so they might as well vote for what their neighbors are putting for. That is why I'm doing this. Because there's a lot of people out there who see what's happening, they're not happy with it, but nobody's naming it. So where's there to go with that feeling, right? So that's why I'm real blunt about it. It's not to gloat. It's because people need to know they're not crazy, honestly. So that's and of course I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy with what's happening to the place where I work. This is my sector. Why are we drowning it in the bathtub? This is not good. So I'm not going to be happy about it, but we're not gloating over the fact that this is happening. We need to be able to name it or we'll never get ourselves out. Like we need people who are willing to just say what's going on. So we're having a good time.
It's like Dusty Slay. I love him. The comedian, he says that all the time. We're having a good time. We're having a good time. You don't know who he is? He's so funny. Dusty Slay, you're hilarious.
I don't know. He's in here already. I didn't even know.
Who? Dusty Slay?
Oh, just like, yeah, we're having a good time. It was already in here. I didn't even know.
Yeah, we're having a good time.
But yeah, so I guess we're coming up on the 7:00 hour. So I hope now y'all can see why I was excited that she decided to run. Kim's involvement in state politics really comes from a place of like I talk to normal people who do not have everything they need, and I am still also able to speak to people who are in power on their level and convey this information to them and make it make sense to them. That is a really rare gift, and one that we really, really need in DC. So that's why I'm pumped about this and was like, yeah, we got to get you on a live stream. We got to talk about this. So I want to thank everybody who is participating, and thanks y'all for coming in.
My team will be remiss if I do not say, please go to the website, KimberlyHardyForCongress.com, and do all the things, right? Do all the things. I'm going to tell you right now, I'd love for you to make a contribution. Again, it does not have to be $1 trillion. In fact, campaign finance laws limits you to a certain amount that you can contribute to a campaign. So
literally not allowed.
Trying to give me $1 trillion. But if you could, please, not only you, but if you could share it with other folks, because here's the thing. I am going to represent a particular district in a particular state that most of you probably don't live in. But Congress makes rules that are federal, that are national, that are global in scope. And so it matters who runs and wins this seat for all of us. It does not just matter for NCO7. It does not even just matter for North Carolina. It matters globally in ways that people might not even realize or maybe didn't realize before now. So if you are like, I want to do something, but perhaps you're in like a super blue state, Connecticut, I'm looking at you. Like when I was on faculty at UConn, like everybody is blue in their congressional delegation, and that's great. And so you feel like, well, my work's done. It's not done because the swing states in particular really, really need your help and support. And there are things that you can do from a distance. Like I said, phone banks and postcard writing and stuff like that. There are things you can do from a distance, and making a contribution is always something that we very much appreciate. So, and if it's not me, then let it be somebody else's race, or do multiple things with multiple people, because it really does need to be all hands on deck right now. And so, so I am grateful for all of you taking some of your time to come and chat with us tonight. If we did not get to a question that you wanted me to respond to, you can go right to the website and put it in a forum, and I'll send you a response back. So that's not a problem. But thank you, and more. Thank you. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you guys. All right, it was good seeing you, Kim. All right, on that wonderful like, let's go get back to all this stuff we have to do. Okay.
Right.
All right, you guys have a good night. Watch me try and make sure I close this thing out in one hit. All right, have a good night.
Bye. Did she do it? Was it